The Galactic Council pushed too far now. Humanity refuses to compromise part. The stars looked different from the observation deck of the massive space station. John Miller pressed his hand against the transparent aluminum window, taking in the view of the neutron star that the Galactic Council's headquarters orbited. After 30 years as a diplomat, he never imagined he would represent all of humanity to an alliance of alien civilizations. Impressive, isn't it? Lisa Carter joined him at the window. As the first president of the newly formed United Earth Coalition, she carried the weight of Earth's future on her shoulders. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical bun, and despite her attempt to appear calm, John noticed the tension in her shoulders. "Sometimes I still can't believe we're here," John said. "Humanity dreamed about meeting aliens for centuries, and now we're standing in their headquarters." "Let's hope the rest of the meeting goes as well as the welcome ceremony," Lisa said. 3. Months ago, the giant silver ships had appeared in Earth's orbit without warning. Panic spread across the planet until the aliens broadcast their message in perfect English. "We are representatives of the Galactic Council. We come in peace and welcome humanity to the interstellar community." After decades of searching the stars for signs of intelligent life, the discovery that Earth was surrounded by 17 advanced species came as a shock. Even more surprising was learning that these species had been watching humanity for centuries, waiting for humans to develop sufficient technology for proper introduction. The Council representatives arrived on Earth with gifts of knowledge, cures for several diseases, more efficient energy production techniques, and hints of faster-than-light travel. They invited Earth to become a probationary member of their alliance, opening the door to trade and cultural exchange with the wider galaxy. Now, John and Lisa led the first official human delegation to the Council's central hub. Their team included scientists, military officers, and cultural experts, the best Earth had to offer. A soft chime interrupted John's thoughts. A holographic display appeared in the air before them, showing a map of the station with a pulsing dot. "The Council is ready for us," Lisa said. "Remember what we discussed. We accept reasonable terms, but we protect Earth's core interests." John nodded. "Let's make history." They walked through curved hallways where gravity shifted subtly with each step. Other alien species moved past them, some with too many limbs, others floating rather than walking, a few that seemed made of light rather than matter. Earth scientists were still cataloging the diversity of Council species. The Council chamber was a vast circular room, with 17 raised platforms arranged in a circle around a central speaking floor. Each platform held representatives of the founding Council species. Above them, a dome showed the stars beyond, making John feel as if they were standing at the center of the galaxy. Zalthur, the appointed liaison for Earth's integration, greeted them at the entrance. The alien stood nearly 7 feet tall with iridescent scales that shifted from blue to green depending on the light. 4 eyes, too large, too small, tracked their movements with unnerving precision. Ambassador Miller, President Carter, Zalthur's voice was melodic, produced by specialized vocal organs that had taken months to adapt to human languages. "The Council welcomes you. Are you prepared to hear the terms of Earth's probationary membership?" Lisa stepped forward. "We are honored to be here and ready to discuss our place in the galactic community." Zalthur guided them to the center of the chamber. The 17 Council representatives observed them with what John assumed was curiosity, though reading alien emotions remained challenging. The Chief Counselor, a being of shifting gas contained in an ornate mechanical shell, floated down to their level. Its voice emerged from a translator device. "Humans of Earth, your species has shown remarkable progress in a short evolutionary time frame. Your creativity, adaptability, and determination have impressed us. However, these same qualities have led you to develop in concerning directions. Your history is marked by conflict, your environment bears the scars of careless development, and your technology advances without sufficient ethical frameworks." John felt a chill despite the comfortable temperature. This wasn't starting as positively as the initial contact. The Chief Counselor continued, Probationary membership will grant you access to Council knowledge, trade networks, and protection. In exchange, Earth must accept certain adjustments to align with Council standards. A holographic display appeared showing a list of requirements: implementation of Council-approved environmental restoration protocols, limitations on weapons development and military expansion, standardization of communication systems for integration with Council networks, regular inspections of Earth facilities by Council observers, genetic research oversight to prevent dangerous modifications. Lisa reviewed the list carefully before responding. Many of these align with goals humanity already holds. We've been working to repair environmental damage and prevent conflicts. However, I notice these terms focus on restrictions. What benefits does Earth receive during this probationary period? Murmur passed through the Council members. John couldn't tell if it was approval or concern. Zalthur answered, Earth will receive medical knowledge that will extend human lifespans by decades. We will share sustainable energy technology that will end your dependence on fossil fuels. We will help establish lunar and Martian colonies with our advanced habitat designs. And perhaps most importantly, we will protect Earth from threats you cannot yet imagine. Threats? John asked. The galaxy is not uniformly peaceful, the Chief Counselor explained. There are species and forces that would view a developing world like Earth as a resource to be exploited or conquered. The Council's protection is not insignificant. John and Lisa exchanged glances. During preparation for this meeting, Earth's United Military Leadership had expressed concern about becoming dependent on alien protection. Yet the benefits couldn't be ignored. How long is this probationary period? Lisa asked. Until Earth demonstrates full alignment with Council values, Zalthur said. For most species, this requires between 20 and 50 of your years, 5 decades under alien supervision. John could already imagine the resistance this would face from various Earth factions. Yet the alternative, rejection from galactic society just when humanity had discovered it, seemed worse. Lisa spoke carefully. We appreciate the Council's offer and the concerns that motivate these terms. Earth's governments will need to review the complete proposal, but speaking provisionally, these seem like reasonable starting points for negotiation. The Chief Counselor's mechanical shell shifted colors from deep blue to purple. There is little to negotiate, President Carter. These are the standard terms for all new species. John stepped forward. With respect, Earth is not a standard case. Our scientists have already analyzed the technology you shared during first contact. We've made improvements to several designs. We believe we can contribute to the Council as partners, not just as students. This caused visible reactions among several Council members. A tall, spindly being leaned forward to examine them more closely. Another, hidden beneath layers of flowing fabric, emitted a series of clicks that the translator didn't catch. Zalthur's scales darkened. Improvements to Council technology? Yes, Lisa said. Our engineers redesigned your atmospheric scrubbers to work 30% more efficiently in Earth-specific conditions. We believe this kind of adaptation could benefit other worlds with similar atmospheres. The Council chamber fell silent. John held his breath. They had debated whether to reveal this information, knowing it might seem presumptuous. But humanity needed to establish itself as valuable, not just compliant. Finally, the Chief Counselor spoke again. Interesting. Perhaps there is room for some customization of the standard terms. We will allow your delegation time to review the full proposal and suggest modest adjustments. As they were escorted from the chamber, John whispered to Lisa. That went better than expected. Lisa nodded, but her expression remained serious. For now. But did you notice how they emphasized alignment with Council values? I wonder how different those values might be from our own. We'll find out soon enough, John said as they returned to the human quarters. This is just the beginning. What neither of them realized was how quickly the Council's reasonable demands would multiply, setting humanity on a collision course with the very alliance they had been so eager to join. The Galactic Council pushed too far now. Humanity refuses to compromise. Part 5 years passed since Earth joined the Galactic Council as a probationary member. The initial excitement of alien contact had faded, replaced by growing unease among Earth's population. What had seemed like reasonable requests from the Council had grown into an ever-expanding list of demands and restrictions. Paul Jackson stared out the window of his office in the United Earth Coalition headquarters in Geneva. As Earth's chief negotiator with the Council, dark circles under his eyes revealed the toll of endless diplomatic battles. His assistant placed another stack of documents on his desk. "More Council directives?" Paul asked, not bothering to hide his frustration. "Yes, sir. They want to expand the resource quotas. The Council is now requesting 40% of all asteroid belt mining output instead of the 30% we agreed to last month." Paul rubbed his temples. "And what justification do they offer this time?" "They claim increased need for rare minerals in Sector 7, where they're helping establish our Mars colony." The pattern had become painfully familiar. Each concession Earth made was quickly followed by new, more intrusive demands. What had started as environmental protections and weapons limitations had grown to include resource quotas, Council observers in military installations, and monitoring of Earth's communications. Paul's secure line chimed. The face of Dr. Susan Wright appeared on his screen. As one of Earth's leading xenobiologists, she had been working closely with Council scientists on their main research station near Jupiter. "Paul, I need to speak with you immediately, privately." Susan's voice was tight with tension. "Use encryption. Protocol 7, Paul said, activating the security measures designed to block Council surveillance. When the encryption engaged, Susan's demeanor changed completely. "I found something you need to see. I was granted temporary access to the Council's biological database for cross-species disease research. I found classified files on other species integration processes." "You're saying you found records of how they handled other new members?" Susan nodded, her expression grim. "The Veltraxians joined 90 years ago. The Hadarians 60 years ago. Both followed the same pattern we're experiencing. Initial reasonable demands followed by escalating restrictions. Within 30 years, both species had lost effective control of their military, their resource development, even their education systems." Paul felt cold dread settling in his stomach. "They're following a playbook." "It's worse," Susan continued. "There's evidence they deliberately target what they call aggressive species, ones with competitive instincts and rapid technological development. They systematically restrict them until they become effectively subservient to Council interests." "Why? What's their endgame?" "Control. The founding Council species are risk-averse. They don't eliminate potential threats. They domesticate them." Paul's secure line beeped with an urgent message. President Lisa Carter's face appeared on split screen. "Paul, we have a situation at Jupiter's moons. Turn on the news." The main screen in Paul's office switched to a live feed. A fleet of Council ships had established position around Europa, Jupiter's ice-covered moon where humanity had established its largest off-Earth mining operation. The news anchor's voice was tense. "The Council claims this protective blockade is in response to weapons smuggling concerns. United Earth Coalition officials deny these allegations and protest that no approval was given for Council military operations in the Jupiter system." Paul felt the blood drain from his face. "They're making their move sooner than I expected." "Get to New York for an emergency session," President Carter ordered. "I'm calling in Ambassador Miller from the Council station. We need to present a united front." 2 days later, Paul stood before the assembled UEC representatives in the New York headquarters. The chamber was packed with delegates from all Earth nations, their faces showing varying degrees of alarm and anger. "For 5 years, we have negotiated in good faith," Paul said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "We have accepted reasonable regulations. We have shared our resources. We have welcomed Council observers. And how has the Council repaid our cooperation? By establishing a military blockade around Europa without consultation or consent." Ambassador John Miller stepped forward. After years as humanity's voice on the Council station, his once optimistic demeanor had hardened into something more cautious. "The Council claims they received intelligence about weapons being developed in the Europa facilities. John explained. When I asked for evidence, they cited confidential sources. When I requested to send neutral inspectors, they refused. Because there are no weapons, said Alan Davis, the director of Europa Research Station, joining them via holographic projection. His image flickered slightly. The council blockade was interfering with communications. We're developing new drive systems based on the technology they shared. Nothing more. President Carter addressed the assembly. We stand at a crossroads. Each concession we've made has only led to more demands. I've consulted with military and scientific advisors. The consensus is clear. The Council is not treating Earth as a partner but as a resource to be managed. Murmurs spread through the assembly. Some nations had benefited greatly from Council technology. Others had chafed under the restrictions from the beginning. What options do we have? Asked the representative from Nigeria. We cannot match their military technology. Actually, Susan Wright said, stepping forward with datapad in hand, we might be closer than they realize. She activated a projection showing technical specifications. Their technology is advanced, but they've been careful about what they share with us. However, by studying multiple systems, our scientists have made connections they didn't anticipate. We've secretly developed capabilities they don't know we possess. Paul noticed the shift in the room, from fear to something like cautious determination. We're not suggesting military action, President Carter clarified, but we need to negotiate from a position of strength. I propose we demand the immediate withdrawal of Council forces from Europa, with a clear statement that their actions violate our sovereignty. And if they refuse? Asked the Chinese representative. Then we implement Operation Breakwater, she replied. A coordinated plan to secure our solar system and reassert control over our destiny. The vote was not unanimous, but the resolution passed with a strong majority. Earth would make one final attempt at diplomatic resolution before taking more drastic measures. 3 days later, Paul found himself aboard the UEC diplomatic vessel approaching the Council blockade around Europa. Captain Kate Summers stood beside him on the bridge, her military posture rigid as Council ships dwarfed their vessel. They're hailing us, the communications officer announced. The face of Zal Thur appeared on screen, scales shifting to a dark purple that Paul had learned indicated irritation or concern. Negotiator Jackson, this area is under Council security operations. Your vessel is not authorized to approach. Paul stepped forward. This is Earth territory established under Section 7 of our membership agreement, which guarantees our autonomy within our home system. Your blockade directly violates that agreement. Circumstances change when security concerns arise, Zalthur replied smoothly. We have reason to believe prohibited research is being conducted on Europa. Then allow our vessel to dock and we can address these concerns together, Paul suggested. That will not be possible at this time. The situation requires Council management. Captain Summers spoke up. Our sensors detect your vessels have weapon systems active. This is an act of aggression against a Council member in their own territory. Zalthur's scales rippled. A precautionary measure only. If Earth has nothing to hide, there should be no concern. Paul felt the familiar frustration rising, but kept his voice steady. We formally request the withdrawal of Council forces within 24 hours. This blockade is unacceptable. Your request is noted, Zalthur said dismissively. The Council will respond when it deems appropriate. As the communication ended, Paul turned to Captain Summers. Get us back to Earth. I don't think they're going to back down. What happens next? She asked quietly. Paul looked at the massive Council ships through the viewport. I don't know, but I think we're about to find out if humanity has what it takes to stand up to the Galactic Council. What neither Paul nor anyone on Earth yet realized was how quickly the situation would escalate, and how the events at Europa would forever change humanity's place in the galaxy. The Galactic Council pushed too far now. Humanity refuses to compromise. Part 3. The Europa Research Station hung in space like a jewel, its lights twinkling against Jupiter's massive form in the background. Inside the station, tension filled the recycled air. For 2 weeks, the Council blockade had prevented supplies from reaching the station. Over 300 scientists and support staff continued their work while watching Council ships through the observation windows. Alan Davis, the station director, looked at the tired faces around the conference table. As head of humanity's premier, deep space laboratory, he had always focused on research, not politics. Now politics had found them anyway. Council representatives are demanding access to Section 7, he said. They insist our drive technology research violates the terms of our membership agreement. Dr. Maria Lopez, head of the propulsion division, slammed her hand on the table. That's ridiculous. Our work builds on technology they already shared with us. We've simply improved it. Improved it by 300%, Alan corrected her. The modified drive system you developed would make our ships faster than most Council vessels. I believe that's what concerns them. The station's security chief, Ben Rogers, checked his tablet. Their latest message says they'll board by force if necessary. They've given us 12 hours to comply. Alan stood and paced the small conference room. When he'd taken this position 3 years ago, he never imagined having to make decisions that might affect all of humanity. The UEC has ordered us to protect our research, he said finally. We will not allow Council inspectors into Section 7. Ben frowned. Sir, their ships outgun anything we have. If they decide to board, Captain Summers and the Defiant will arrive in 6 hours, Alan interrupted. President Carter has authorized her to provide protection while we transfer the most sensitive research data. As the meeting ended, Alan stepped to the window. The Council ships looked peaceful enough, elegant curved hulls unlike the more practical designs of human vessels. Yet their presence felt threatening, like predators circling wounded prey. His communication panel beeped. It was Susan Wright calling from Earth. Alan, I have new information about the Council's tactics, she said without preamble. The Veltraxians tried to resist similar restrictions 80 years ago. The Council made an example of them. Alan felt a chill. What kind of example? They disabled a Veltraxian research station, claiming it was an accident during an inspection. 17 Veltraxian scientists died. The number struck Alan like a physical blow. Europa Station currently had 17 scientists working in Section E7. Susan, I need you to get this information to President Carter immediately. And tell Paul Jackson too. They need to understand what we might be facing. 6 hours later, the UEC vessel Defiant dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Europa. Captain Kate Summers assessed the situation with practiced calm. Her ship wasn't as large as the Council vessels, but it was Earth's newest and best-equipped. Defender. Hail the Council command ship, she ordered. The alien face of the Council commander appeared on screen. Unlike Zalthur, this was a being of the Mordani species. 4 eyes set in a rigid exoskeleton frame, mandibles clicking as it spoke. UEC vessel, this area is under Council authority. You are ordered to withdraw. Kate kept her voice level. This is Captain Summers of the Defiant. We are in Earth's home system providing support to our research station. We do not recognize your authority to restrict movement here. Your presence escalates a delicate security matter, the commander replied. Withdraw immediately. I will maintain position between your fleet and the station, Kate responded. Any attempt to board Europa Station will be considered a hostile act against Earth. The communication ended abruptly. Kate turned to her first officer. Status of the station? They've begun transferring research data to our secure systems. Estimated completion time, 3 hours. Kate nodded. Maintain position and keep shields at maximum. Let's hope this is all just intimidation tactics. On Earth, an emergency session of the UEC Security Council was underway. Paul Jackson presented the latest intelligence from Susan Wright. We have reason to believe the Council may create an incident to justify forceful action at Europa, he explained to the grim-faced representatives. Their past behavior with the Veltraxians suggests they're willing to sacrifice lives to make their point. President Carter's face showed the strain of sleepless nights. We've sent formal protests through every diplomatic channel. The Council simply responds that they're addressing security concerns according to our membership agreement, which they interpret however they want. Paul added bitterly. The Brazilian representative leaned forward. Can we evacuate the station? Captain Summers is attempting to secure it long enough to extract the most valuable research and personnel. President Carter replied. But a full evacuation would take days we don't have. Suddenly, the room's main screen flashed with an urgent alert. The communications officer's voice was tight with stress. Madam President, we're receiving emergency signals from Europa Station. Council ships have fired on them, claiming they were warning shots. The station reports damage to life. Support systems in Section 7. The room erupted in shocked voices. President Carter raised her hand for silence. Get me Captain Summers immediately. The scene that appeared on screen showed chaos. Kate Summers' face was partially obscured by emergency lighting, and alarms sounded in the background. Madam President, Council ships fired without provocation. They claim they were aiming for our shields to demonstrate their seriousness, but they hit the station's external life support systems. We're attempting to assist with emergency repairs, but they're blocking our approach. Casualties? Carter asked, her voice strained. Kate's face hardened. We don't know yet. Communication with Section 7 is down. Back on Europa Station, Alan Davis crawled through a maintenance tunnel, emergency oxygen mask covering his face. Smoke filled the corridor ahead, and warning lights flashed along the walls. He'd been in the administrative section when the explosions hit, but the research team had been working in Section 7. He reached the sealed emergency doors and overrode the safety protocols, forcing them open just enough to squeeze through. The scene inside made his blood run cold. The Council's warning shots had breached the hull in 2 places. Emergency force fields contained the atmosphere, but they hadn't activated quickly enough. Bodies floated in the low gravity, some still at their workstations, others near the emergency shelter doors they hadn't reached in time. Alan moved from person to person, checking for survivors, but found none. Dr. Lopez, who had been so passionate about protecting their research. Dr. Chen, whose drive modifications had been the breakthrough. All 17 members of the Section 7 team, gone. His communicator crackled. It was Ben Rogers. Sir, are you there? Captain Summers is demanding a status report. Alan stared at the floating bodies of his team, the finest minds Earth had sent, to the stars. Tell her. His voice broke. Tell her 17 dead. No survivors in Section 7. 3 days later, the bodies were returned to Earth. The Council issued a formal statement expressing deep regret for the unfortunate accident and offering assistance in rebuilding the damaged research facilities under proper Council supervision. Millions watched as the coffins draped in Earth flags were unloaded from transport ships. The images spread across the planet. Scientists who had died not from space's natural dangers but from alien weapons. President Carter tried to maintain diplomatic channels, appearing calm in public statements. But in private meetings, plans were already forming. Humanity had reached its breaking point. In labs and workshops across Earth and its colonies, engineers and scientists worked with new purpose, applying what they'd learned from Council technology while adding human innovation. In military bases, training shifted to new protocols. In diplomatic circles, quiet messages went out to other species who might share humanity's frustrations with Council control. The Council had expected compliance after their show of force. What they would get instead would surprise them, because the one thing they had never truly understood about humans was what happened when they were pushed too far. The Galactic Council pushed too far now. Humanity refuses to compromise part. 6 months after the Europa incident, Earth had changed. Memorial statues of the 17 dead scientists stood in cities across the planet. Their names and faces appeared on digital billboards in school lessons and on military recruitment posters. Remember Europa became a common phrase, shared as both greeting and promise. Behind closed doors, humanity prepared. The Council believed they understood human psychology, that the show of force at Europa would lead to submission. They were wrong. In his new office at the UEC headquarters, Paul Jackson reviewed the latest intelligence reports. After the incident, he had been promoted to Secretary of Defense, His diplomatic skills now focused on a different kind of negotiation. "The Council still doesn't realize how much we've learned from them," he told Susan Wright, who sat across from him. Her xenobiology expertise had proven invaluable in understanding Council species and their weaknesses. "They assume we're decades behind their technology," Susan agreed. "But humanity has always excelled at adaptation. Our engineers have modified every piece of technology they've shared with us." Paul pulled up a secure holographic display showing Earth's secret preparations, hidden shipyards in the asteroid belt, training facilities on the far side of the moon, weapon systems that combined Council technology with human innovation. "How long before they notice?" Susan asked. "We need another 3 months minimum," Paul replied. "But our intelligence suggests the Council is preparing to move sooner." The door slid open, and President Carter entered with a grim expression. The past 6 months had aged her visibly, silver now streaking her once dark hair. "It's happening," she said without preamble. "The Council has called an emergency session regarding Earth's status. Ambassador Miller reports they're preparing to deliver an ultimatum." Paul's jaw tightened. "Sooner than we expected." "Zalthur sent me a preview," President Carter said, her voice bitter. "They're demanding permanent Council oversight of all military and research facilities. If we refuse, they'll revoke our access to Council space, restricting us to our solar system," Susan said quietly. "Like being confined to our room as punishment," Paul added. "They expect us to choose the comfortable prison." President Carter's eyes hardened. "They've made a fundamental error in judgment. Gather the Security Council. It's time for Operation Defiance." 2 days later, the newly elected UEC President Gary Williams stood before the full assembly in New York. At 53, with a background as both military officer and colonial administrator on Mars, he had been chosen specifically for this moment in history. President Carter had stepped down, acknowledging that the coming conflict required new leadership. The assembly hall was packed, with representatives from every Earth nation and colony. The session was being broadcast to billions of humans throughout the solar system. "Today, the Galactic Council will deliver their ultimatum," President Williams began. "They believe they already know our answer. They have studied our history and seen our divisions. They expect us to submit rather than risk conflict with technologically superior species." He paused, looking across the assembly. What they failed to understand is that humans have never accepted confinement. From our earliest days, we have explored, questioned, and reached beyond boundaries. When oppressed, we resist. When threatened, we unite. The main screen activated, showing the Council chamber. Zalthur stood at the center, scales gleaming under the artificial light. "People of Earth," the alien began, voice smooth and reasonable, "the Council has concluded its investigation of the unfortunate Europa incident. To prevent such tragedies in the future, we require permanent Council oversight of all Earth military and research installations. Additionally, until Earth demonstrates full compliance with Council protocols, travel beyond your solar system will be restricted." Zalthur continued detailing the new restrictions, but the expressions of the Earth representatives remained unmoved. They had expected this. When the Council representative finished, President Williams stood. "We have heard the Council's demands," he said calmly. "Now the Council will hear humanity's response." The room fell completely silent. "We will not compromise our sovereignty. We will not allow the deaths at Europa to be in vain, and we will not be restricted to our solar system by those who have proven themselves unworthy of our trust." Zalthur's scales darkened with what humans now recognized as alarm. "President Williams, perhaps you misunderstand the situation. These are not suggestions. The Council has voted. These measures will be implemented immediately." Williams smiled, slightly. "No, Zalthur, you misunderstand. Humanity is not asking permission. We are informing you of our decision." He nodded to someone off-screen. Across the solar system, hidden systems activated. On Earth, in orbit, on the Moon and Mars, and throughout the asteroid belt, humanity's preparations revealed themselves. "As we speak," Williams continued, "we are deploying a network of advanced defensive systems throughout our solar system. We have established alliances with other species who share our frustration with council methods, and we are prepared to demonstrate that humanity will not be subjugated. On the council station, alarms began to sound. Zalthur received urgent messages from council military leaders. Somehow, Earth ships had bypassed council detection systems. They were appearing near critical council installations throughout nearby space. "This is madness," Zalthur said, genuine fear in his voice now. "The council fleet will respond to this aggression." "Your fleet is currently occupied," Williams replied calmly. "If you check your reports, you'll find many of your ships experiencing unexpected technical difficulties." In the council chamber, confusion spread as reports flooded in. Council ships throughout the sector reported propulsion failures, weapons systems going offline, and communication disruptions. "What have you done?" Zalthur demanded. President Williams leaned forward. "We learned from you, Zalthur. Every piece of technology you shared, we studied. Every system you installed on our planet, we examined. And we found the weaknesses you never expected us to discover." On a secure channel, Captain Kate Summers reported from the bridge of the Defiant, now upgraded with hybrid human council technology. "Sir, Operation Shadowfall is complete. Council defense networks are compromised. Their primary fleet depot at Centauri Station is surrounded. We are maintaining position, but not engaging unless ordered." Williams nodded in acknowledgement before addressing Zalthur again. "The Council has two options. You can recognize Earth's full sovereignty and independence, beginning negotiations for equal membership. Or you can continue on your current path and discover just how creative humans can be when defending their freedom." The council chamber erupted in chaos. The 17 founding species had never faced such direct challenge from a probationary member. The chief counselor moved forward, pushing Zalthur aside. "How did you achieve this level of technological development without our knowledge?" Susan Wright stepped to President Williams' side. "You watched us, but didn't see us. You measured our technology, but not our ingenuity. You studied our history, but missed its most important lesson. Humans advance fastest when challenged." For 3 tense days, the galaxy waited. Council forces remained in disarray, unable to mount an effective response. Earth ships held position near key council installations but took no hostile action. The message was clear. Humanity could strike but was choosing restraint. Finally, the council requested a neutral meeting ground for negotiations. The gas giant Epsilon 9, in unclaimed space between council territory and the Sol system, would host the first ever equal talks between Earth and the council. As the diplomatic team prepared to depart, Paul Jackson found himself returning to his role as negotiator, though under very different circumstances. "Do you think they'll negotiate in good faith?" he asked President Williams. "They don't have much choice," Williams replied. "But more importantly, we're not alone. The Veltraxians, the Nor Collective, the Hadarian Remnant, they've all reached out expressing support for our position." Susan Wright joined them holding her datapad. "According to our intelligence, 7 other probationary species are watching this situation closely. If we succeed, the entire council structure could change." Paul looked at the star map showing Earth ships positioned throughout nearby space. "They pushed us too far. And now," President Williams said, "they'll learn what happens when humanity pushes back." The Galactic Council pushed too far now. Humanity refuses to compromise part. 5. The neutral space station orbiting Epsilon 9 had never hosted a gathering of such importance. Representatives from the Galactic Council arrived in their ornate ships, while the human delegation came aboard the Defiant, now the flagship of Earth's rapidly expanding fleet. Paul Jackson stood at the viewport, watching the council representatives board the station. Despite returning to his role as lead negotiator, he now carried himself with the confidence of someone backed by power, not just words. "Nervous?" asked Captain Kate Summers, joining him at the window. "Cautiously optimistic," Paul replied. "For the first time, we're negotiating as equals, not supplicants." President Williams led the human delegation into the grand meeting chamber. The circular room had been designed for neutrality, with 17 sections for the founding council species, and smaller areas for probationary members. Today, however, the human section had been expanded to equal size. The chief counselor's mechanical shell gleamed as it floated to the center of the chamber. This special session will address the situation with Earth's membership status, and the broader issue of how the council treats all probationary members, President Williams added firmly. Salthur's scales rippled with irritation. Earth's concerns are noted, but this meeting is not just about Earth, interrupted a new voice. All eyes turned to see representatives of the Veltraxians enter the chamber. Their tall, slender forms moved with deliberate grace. Behind them came delegates from the Noor collective, their crystalline bodies catching the light, and the reptilian Hadarian remnant. "We stand with humanity," announced the Veltraxian speaker. "Their grievances mirror our own." The council chamber erupted in protest, but President Williams remained calm. This had been the plan all along, not just to assert Earth's independence, but to reshape the entire power structure of galactic politics. Susan Wright stepped forward, datapad in hand. "We have evidence the Council has systematically oppressed multiple species under the guise of probationary membership. The Europa incident was not an isolated event but part of a pattern." She projected images of similar accidents on Veltraxian and Hadarian worlds over the past century. Each followed the same pattern: demands for compliance, resistance, then a tragic misunderstanding that left research facilities destroyed and scientists dead. "You accuse the Council of deliberate aggression?" The chief counselor's voice conveyed shock, but Paul noted how several council representatives avoided looking at the evidence. "We present facts," Paul replied, "and offer a choice. The Council can continue its current path and face a coalition of increasingly capable species, or it can evolve into a truly equal partnership." The Noor representative's crystalline form pulsed with light. "For too long, the founding species have claimed superiority while benefiting from our resources and innovations, without acknowledging our contributions," added the Hadarian speaker. "Humanity has simply exposed what many of us have experienced for generations." Salthur moved to the center of the chamber. "This is unprecedented. The Council has maintained peace for millennia by guiding younger species. By controlling them," President Williams corrected. "That era ends today." He activated a secure communication device. Throughout Council space, human ships that had been quietly positioned over the past week suddenly revealed themselves, not as invaders, but as protectors, each positioned near worlds of probationary species. Simultaneously, the technological disruptions affecting Council systems intensified. Their security networks, communication relays, and defense grids experienced cascading failures, not enough to cause harm, but sufficient to demonstrate vulnerability. The chief counselor's mechanical shell darkened. "You threaten the Council with force?" "We demonstrate capacity," Williams corrected, "just as you demonstrated yours at Europa. The difference is our restraint." Captain Summers sent a secure message to the human delegation. "Operation Reckoning complete. All systems in position. All allied species confirmed ready." Paul stepped forward with a datapad. "These are our terms for continued relations with the Council." The document, projected for all to see, contained 3 core demands. First, full membership for all probationary species with equal voting rights. Second, reparations for the Europa incident and similar events on other worlds. Third, dissolution of the Council's enforcement division and its replacement with a defensive alliance all members would contribute to equally. "Impossible," Salthur declared. "The founding species would never. The founding species don't have the luxury of refusal," Susan Wright interrupted, displaying new data. "Our analysis of Council technological dependencies shows that without resources from probationary worlds, your economies would collapse within a decade." The human-led coalition had done their research well. While the Council had superior technology, in many areas they had become dependent on resources and specialized labor from the worlds they claimed to be guiding. For 3 days, negotiations continued. Some Council representatives remained hostile, others simply shocked that their dominance was being challenged. But slowly, reality sank in. The balance of power had shifted. On the final day, representatives from 23 probationary species joined the original coalition. What had begun as humanity's stand for independence had evolved into a galactic reformation movement. The Council reluctantly agreed to most demands, though implementation would take time. The new charter established equal membership for all species, prohibited interference in member worlds' internal development, and created a more balanced defense structure. As the official signing ceremony began, Paul found himself standing beside Salther. "You realize this changes everything," the alien said quietly. "That's the point," Paul replied. "The old council saw diversity as something to control. We see it as strength." Salther's scales shifted to a color Paul hadn't seen before. "Humans continue to surprise us. When you first contacted the council, many thought you would be easily managed. Some even suggested bypassing your world entirely. Why didn't you? Curiosity. Your species advances so quickly, adapts so readily. Some considered it dangerous. Others found it fascinating." Across the chamber, President Williams signed the new charter on behalf of Earth. One by one, representatives of both founding and formerly probationary species added their signatures or equivalent marks. Later, as the human delegation prepared to return to Earth, they gathered on the Defiance observation deck. Through the viewport, they could see ships from dozens of worlds departing the neutral station, returning to homes that would now develop according to their own paths, not council mandates. "What happens now?" Captain Summers asked. Susan smiled. "Now the real work begins, building something better than what we're leaving behind." President Williams looked out at the stars, stars that were now open to humanity without restriction. "We've earned our place in the galaxy, not through submission, but by standing firm when pushed too far." On Earth, crowds gathered in cities worldwide to watch the broadcast of the signing ceremony. The memorial statues of the Europa scientists had been decorated with flowers and messages of gratitude. Their sacrifice had not been in vain. John Miller, the original ambassador who had first set foot on the council station years ago, watched from his home in Geneva. His journey had come full circle, from optimistic first contact to the hard lessons of galactic politics, and now to a new beginning. His communication device chimed with a message from Lisa Carter, the former president. "They pushed too far. We pushed back. The galaxy will never be the same." As humanity looked to the stars that night, they did so not as newcomers on probation, but as equals in a transformed galactic community. The Council had pushed humanity to its breaking point, never realizing that this would not lead to submission but to revolution. Not just for Earth, but for all species who had suffered under the old order. The message spread from world to world, system to system. When pushed too far, humanity refuses to compromise. And in refusing, they had changed the galaxy forever.